I've been using my Titan Fin and Squat Max MD for about a month and am constantly reminded that I'm a bit too short for it as I keep bottoming out when hitting parallel. And I bought a different belt that's slightly shorter, but turns out that that only helps until I get to about 300 pounds or so, and the belt, the material itself starts to stretch a little bit, and that would make me bottom out again. So the only real answer right now is to build a platform that raises me up just a little bit, giving me the clearance that I need. Obviously, there's a lot of ways to approach this project, and what I'm going to show you is what I feel like is one of the easier approaches. That being said, I did do a couple optional steps to make my platform look and perform better. Not every step that I'm about to show you is necessary, and I'll let you know that when we get there. Also, I personally already owned a lot of the materials to get this project done, so your mileage may vary. I'll do my best to include as much reference products as possible for you in the description below. And with that said, let's get started. Probably the most obvious approach to building a platform is to use wood, and for my project I decided to go with non-pressure treated 4x4 for the internal structure. This is because right off the bat, a 4x4 would give you a 3.5 inch lift right out the gate. You just cut the wood down to size, stand on it, and you're pretty much done. Good to go, nothing else needed. With most other wood sizes, you're probably going to have to do some sort of stacking, which just takes more effort. I originally planned to just cut two pieces of 4x4, stick them side by side, and call it a day. That would give me a 7-inch wide platform to stand on and would be perfectly functional, but just a little bit ugly in my opinion. I ultimately decided to wrap the platform completely covering the 4x4, so I also picked up a 4x8 foot sheet of plywood. For this, I went with the thinnest sheet that my Lowe's had, and it was 5mm thick. With my platform, the plywood is purely for aesthetics. It's just to cover up the 4x4, which is what's giving me the structural rigidity. So spending money on thicker plywood would just be a complete waste of money in my opinion. Pro tip, if you don't have the means to rip a full sheet of plywood or just too lazy to do it like me, some hardware stores actually sell smaller pre-cut sheets but at a higher cost per square footage. And some hardware stores have larger saws that will be able to cut down the wood for you. But just be careful with this as some of the workers are not as proficient with the saw and can make inaccurate cuts. I say this because this happened on my project. The guy cut a little bit too short, I didn't double check at the store, and had to make adjustments to all the cut pieces that I already made at home. At this point, I want to talk about the platform size, and this will ultimately depend on you and what you want. I would recommend for you to stand on the Squat Max in your normal squatting stance and measure your foot from side to side. But remember that your feet are naturally going to angle a bit, so account for that. Measure from the furthest edge on each side. I personally gave myself some extra space and decided to cut my 4x4 to 9.5 inches wide. I had 4 of these stacked side to side, which gave me a total length of 14 inches. So my internal structure was 9.5 inches wide by 14 inches long. To attach these blocks together, I just used some wood glue between the sides and clamped everything together to dry. You can reinforce them even further by nailing or screwing them together, but I didn't think that this was necessary, considering that they'd be locked into place once you get all the plywood wrapped around them. Next, it was time to cut the plywood down to size. Again, there are a few ways to approach this. I went with the easiest route and decided to just butt the ends to each other. I would say that cutting the plywood down was the hardest part of this project for me because again, I chose 5mm thick plywood. That doesn't translate perfectly to the imperial fraction system that we use. So it's just a little bit weird dealing with wood that's 5mm, which translates to just a little bit over 3/16 of an inch. So what I'm getting at is unless you're extremely anal about measuring, there's going to be some discrepancies when you go to assemble everything. Especially if you have 4x4 that's not perfect straight like I did. So just know that and be prepared for some gaps. And if you don't care about them, then really no problem. But if you do, then there are ways to fill up the gaps. But in saying that, if you want to perfectly copy what I did, I cut 4 pieces of 14 by 10 inches and 4 pieces of 10 by 4 inches and 4 pieces of 14 by 4 inches to get all the sides covered of the 4x4 blocks. Once I got all the plywood cut, it was time to assemble the plywood box around the internal 4x4 structure. To hold the plywood in place, I used brad nails. I would recommend that you add wood glue here to make an even sturdier structure. I didn't because I was in a rush to get this project done and didn't want to sit around waiting for glue to dry again. Again, because I was working with some imperfect wood, there's going to be some gaps. You can skip this step, but if you care like me, you can fill the gaps in. This can be done with wood filler, or in my case, spackle, because I have a bunch of it laying around. This particular product that I'm using goes on as pink, but dries as white. Not the best look in either case, but it didn't matter to me because I plan to paint my platform black to match the color scheme of my home gym. Next, I'm going to glue on some anti-slip padding to the top and bottom of my platforms. For this, I'm using some toolbox liner that I already had lined around. This padding is going to help keep the platform in place and to prevent the wood from possibly scratching up the squat max. This is another optional step, but I personally really appreciate having this liner on the platform. It's just very tacky and makes sure that the platform doesn't move anywhere when I'm lifting hundreds of pounds. And that's my entire process for building a platform for the squat max. I can't tell you how much of a game changer this is for me. I can squat so low now, way below parallel without bottoming out, even when using a longer belt. I think if you're under 6 feet tall, this is definitely a worthwhile project. I hope this video has helped you out. If it did, I'd appreciate if you can give the video a thumbs up, share it around, comment down below with any thoughts or questions that you may have. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more content. And if you want to further support my work, consider hitting the join button down below to become a member of this channel or become a patron on Patreon. Thanks a lot for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.